Have you ever entered a room and felt an unshakable tension in the air, as if someone disliked you without any clear reason? Maybe it was the subtle way they avoided eye contact or the cold tone in their responses. Even when you try to be friendly, kind, and approachable, their coldness lingered, leaving you puzzled and hurt. Moments like these can make us pause and wonder, why do some people harbor resentment toward us, even when we've done nothing wrong? This isn't just a rare or isolated experience. It's something most of us have faced at some point. Maybe it happened at work, in a social gathering, or even within your own family. And the question keeps echoing, what did I do wrong? The truth is often surprising. The negativity you sense may have little to do with you and everything to do with the struggles within the other person. Human emotions are intricate and layered, often influenced by hidden insecurities, past traumas, or misguided perceptions. Hatred, envy, and resentment can arise not because of your actions, but because of the inner battles someone else is fighting. Buddhism, a philosophy deeply rooted in understanding the nature of human suffering, provides profound insights into these complex emotions. It teaches us that such negativity is often born from ignorance, avijja, a lack of understanding and attachment to the ego, atta. When people are trapped in their own illusions, their emotions manifest as anger, jealousy, or hostility toward others. But here's the good news: their emotions do not define you. Instead of taking this negativity personally, you can use it as an opportunity for growth. Buddhism offers timeless principles that empower us to respond to such challenges with compassion, mindfulness, and inner strength. Imagine being able to maintain your peace and positivity, even in the face of someone else's hostility. Imagine transforming resentment into an opportunity for empathy and self-awareness. In this video, we'll explore 9 profound reasons why people might secretly hate you, as seen through the lens of Buddhist philosophy. Each reason will reveal not only why negativity arises, but also how to deal with it in a way that fosters your own personal growth and spiritual development. Whether it's envy, misunderstandings, or fundamental differences in values, these lessons will help you navigate the complexities of human relationships with grace and wisdom. But this isn't just about surviving negativity, it's about thriving in the midst of it. Together, we'll dive into stories and teachings that shed light on how you can rise above resentment and embrace a life of compassion, clarity, and confidence. By understanding these reasons, you'll gain the tools to stop internalizing others' negativity, protect your peace, and cultivate a deeper sense of harmony within yourself and with the world around you. So, if you've ever felt the sting of unexplained tension or the burden of unspoken resentment, stay with us. This journey is about more than understanding others. It's about transforming your own life. Let's uncover the truths that will set you free and guide you toward a path of wisdom and peace. Are you ready? Let's begin. 1. Envy and jealousy. When people feel envy, it often stems from an internal struggle rather than anything you've done intentionally. Envy is a silent emotion that creeps in when individuals measure their lives against others. They see your success, your happiness, or even your inner peace, and instead of feeling inspired, they feel diminished. It's not the actual achievements or qualities that provoke envy, but the story their mind tells about what those achievements mean for them. Envy says, "You have something I don't, and that makes me less." In the Buddhist tradition, this emotion is linked to lobha, or greed, and moha, or delusion. These are 2 of the 3 poisons that cloud the mind and perpetuate suffering. Greed is the attachment to wanting more, while delusion is the inability to see the truth clearly. Together, they create a mindset where a person fixates on what they lack, viewing another's success as a personal failure. This perspective blinds them to their own abundance, leaving them trapped in dissatisfaction. Imagine someone who sees a colleague receive a promotion. The colleague's success does not take anything away from their role. Yet envy arises because the ego frames the achievement as a threat. "Why not me?" the mind whispers, fueling resentment. This reaction has little to do with the promoted colleague and everything to do with the envious individual's unmet desires or insecurities. The Buddha offered a profound remedy for this through the practice of mudita, or sympathetic joy. Mudita is the ability to genuinely rejoice in others' happiness and achievements. It's not always an easy practice, especially when envy feels so automatic, but it's transformative. By cultivating mudita, we shift the focus from what we lack to the joy of celebrating another's good fortune. This not only frees us from the burden of envy, but also fosters deeper connections and a sense of abundance. Now, let's reframe envy from your perspective, the person who is envied. When you notice someone pulling away or acting cold after you achieve something significant, it's easy to feel hurt or defensive. You might think, "What did I do wrong?" Or even feel tempted to downplay your success to make them comfortable. But remember, their reaction is not about you. It's a projection of their inner dialogue, their struggles, and their journey. Instead of taking it personally, approach the situation with compassion. Consider this: the person who envies you is likely wrestling with feelings of inadequacy or fear. Their actions, while hurtful, are cries for help from a mind caught in comparison and suffering. Compassion doesn't mean excusing bad behavior. It means recognizing the pain behind it and choosing not to add fuel to the fire. Imagine a scenario where you receive a well-deserved promotion. A friend, instead of celebrating with you, starts avoiding your calls or making passive-aggressive comments. Initially, this might sting, but what if you reframed your perspective? Instead of reacting with frustration, you choose to reach out and affirm their value. Perhaps you say, "I know you've been working hard too, and I deeply admire your dedication. Your efforts inspire me every day." Such a response doesn't just neutralize resentment. It has the potential to transform it into connection and mutual support. But what if their envy escalates into gossip or overt negativity? This is where Buddhist teachings encourage you to lean on your inner strength. The Buddha reminds us not to let others' reactions disturb our peace. When you practice equanimity, staying balanced and grounded, you protect yourself from being dragged into their emotional storm. Your focus remains on your values and your path, untouched by the turbulence around you. It's also important to reflect on how society amplifies envy. Social media, for instance, magnifies comparison by presenting curated highlights of others' lives. It's easy to see someone's vacation, promotion, or seemingly perfect relationship and feel inadequate. But as the Buddha taught, these perceptions are often illusions. What we see is rarely the full picture, and clinging to these comparisons only deepens suffering. For those who envy you, their perception of your life may be exaggerated or idealized, making their feelings even more intense. One way to break this cycle, both for yourself and those around you, is by practicing gratitude. Gratitude shifts the focus from what's missing to what's already present. When someone envies you, it may help to model gratitude in your own life. Speak openly about the challenges you've faced to achieve your success, not to diminish your accomplishments, but to remind others that life is multifaceted. Gratitude fosters connection because it acknowledges both the highs and lows of life. Another powerful antidote to envy is generosity. When someone envies you, offer them kindness. This doesn't mean overcompensating or giving in to their demands, but finding ways to uplift them genuinely. Generosity can be as simple as sharing advice, encouraging words, or an opportunity that aligns with their goals. When you give freely without expectation, you not only help dissolve their resentment, but also cultivate your own sense of abundance. There's a story in Buddhist tradition about a wealthy merchant who was envied by his peers. Instead of guarding his wealth jealously, he used it to build schools and hospitals in his community. His generosity not only eased the envy directed toward him, but also inspired others to find joy in giving rather than comparing. This story reminds us that we have the power to transform envy, ours or others, into something positive and healing. Ultimately, envy is not an indictment of your character or accomplishments. It's a reflection of the struggles people face within themselves. By understanding this, you can choose to respond with compassion rather than defensiveness. You can create a space where others feel seen and valued, even as you continue to shine. The next time you sense envy directed toward you, pause and reflect. Instead of shrinking to make others comfortable or retaliating out of hurt, ask yourself, how can I meet this with kindness? How can I use this moment to foster connection instead of division? In doing so, you'll not only protect your peace, but also embody the principles of mudita, showing that the antidote to envy is not comparison but compassion. 2. Misunderstandings and ineffective communication. Misunderstandings are like tiny cracks in a wall. They may seem insignificant at first, but can grow into deep fractures if left unchecked. Often, these moments arise not from intentional harm, but from missteps that go unnoticed or unaddressed. A hurried tone of voice, a comment taken out of context, or a fleeting look that is misinterpreted. All of these can create a ripple of negativity in relationships. Unlike overt conflicts, these misunderstandings are subtle, which makes them even more dangerous because they can linger beneath the surface, quietly building resentment. In Buddhism, the principles of samavaka, right speech, and samasati, right mindfulness, offer guidance to prevent these small cracks from becoming irreparable. Right speech is more than simply choosing kind or truthful words. It's about ensuring that our words serve a meaningful purpose and are delivered with intention. Mindfulness in communication, meanwhile, reminds us to be present, not just in what we say, but in how we listen and interpret. Think about a simple exchange in your daily life. Perhaps someone asks you for feedback on their work. You mean to encourage them, but say something like, "This is a good start, but it needs more effort." In your mind, the statement is constructive, but to them, it might sound dismissive or critical, especially if they were already feeling insecure. This is the power of perception. It can turn even neutral comments into personal slights if we're not mindful of the emotional context. A misunderstanding often begins when we fail to see the world through the other person's eyes. Imagine this. A friend doesn't reply to your message for days, and you begin to feel ignored or undervalued. Yet, what if that friend is going through a tough time and simply doesn't have the emotional bandwidth to respond? Without clarity, the mind fills in the gaps with assumptions, and those assumptions rarely paint a kind picture. Misunderstandings thrive in the absence of direct communication because the ego prefers certainty, even if that certainty is built on false narratives. The Buddha taught that mindfulness requires us to pause before reacting. When you encounter tension in a conversation, it's natural to jump to conclusions or respond defensively. But mindfulness encourages a different approach, to step back and consider, what is truly happening here? Often, the act of pausing is enough to break the cycle of assumption and create space for understanding. Take, for example, a story about a teacher and student. The student had asked the teacher for advice, and the teacher, busy with other responsibilities, responded with what seemed like a curt remark. The student, feeling dismissed, began to harbor resentment, believing the teacher no longer cared about their progress. For months, their relationship grew colder. It wasn't until the teacher noticed the change and initiated a heartfelt conversation that the truth came to light. The teacher's remark wasn't dismissive at all. It was simply hurried, spoken in a moment of distraction. Both realized that a single mindful dialogue could have prevented months of unnecessary estrangement. Misunderstandings don't only occur in words, they also live in silences. Consider how much meaning people ascribe to a lack of response, a text left unread, an invitation not acknowledged, or a question that seems ignored. Silence can be fertile ground for resentment because it allows the imagination to create worst-case scenarios. The Buddhist teachings on mindfulness remind us to approach these moments with curiosity rather than judgment. Instead of assuming neglect, we can ask ourselves, what else might be true here? Listening, often taken for granted, is a cornerstone of effective communication. Many people listen not to understand but to reply, waiting for their turn to speak rather than fully absorbing what's being said. This creates a disconnect, as the speaker feels unheard and the listener misses crucial context. True listening, as guided by Buddhist principles, involves setting aside your own agenda and giving your full attention to the other person. It's not just about hearing their words, but also about observing their tone, body language, and underlying emotions. Imagine a scenario where a coworker expresses frustration about a shared project. If you focus solely on their words, "I feel like I'm doing all the work," you might respond defensively. explaining how much effort you've put in. But if you listen mindfully, you might notice their tired posture or stressed tone and realize their frustration isn't about the workload but about feeling overwhelmed. Mindful listening allows you to address the real issue rather than reacting to surface-level complaints. When misunderstandings arise, they often carry emotional baggage that clouds judgment. This is where karu, compassion, becomes essential. Compassion invites us to approach conflicts with the assumption that others' actions, even hurtful ones, are often rooted in their own pain or confusion. Instead of reacting to their words or behavior, compassion asks us to look deeper and consider what they might be struggling with. Consider the example of a close friend who lashes out at you unexpectedly. Without compassion, it's easy to take their words personally and retaliate. But compassion allows you to pause and think, is this about me, or is something else going on in their life? This shift in perspective doesn't excuse bad behavior, but it helps you respond in a way that fosters understanding rather than escalating the conflict. Another tool to prevent misunderstandings is clarity. The Buddha emphasized the importance of speaking in ways that are clear and intentional, ensuring that your words leave little room for misinterpretation. This means choosing your language carefully, checking in to confirm understanding, and avoiding ambiguous statements. Clarity isn't just about avoiding missteps, it's about creating a sense of safety in communication, where both parties feel seen and understood. Think of how often we use phrases like, "I'm fine," or "it's whatever," when we don't truly mean them. These phrases, while seemingly harmless, can confuse the listener and create a disconnect. Practicing right speech means expressing yourself honestly but with kindness. Instead of saying, "I'm fine," when you're upset, you might say, "I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed, but I appreciate your support." Such transparency builds trust and prevents the resentment that often grows from unspoken feelings. Ultimately, misunderstandings are a natural part of human relationships, but they don't have to lead to hostility. By practicing mindfulness, compassionate listening, and clear communication, we can navigate these moments with grace. The next time you sense tension in a conversation, pause and reflect. Ask yourself, what am I assuming here? And what might I be missing? In that pause lies the opportunity to replace misunderstanding with connection, ensuring that small cracks in relationships don't become insurmountable divides. 3. Differences in values and beliefs. The diversity in our world is what makes it vibrant and enriching, yet it is often the very reason for tension and conflict. People naturally gravitate toward what feels familiar and comfortable, and when faced with differences, whether in politics, religion, lifestyle, or even something as simple as daily habits, they may respond with defensiveness or resentment. These reactions often have little to do with the differences themselves and everything to do with how those differences challenge their sense of identity. Imagine someone who has built their life around certain cultural or familial traditions. These traditions are more than just practices. They are deeply ingrained parts of who they believe they are. When they encounter someone whose way of life diverges significantly from their own, it can feel unsettling, even threatening. It's as though your choice to live differently is a critique of their choices, even if you've never said a word. This is where misunderstandings and resentment begin to brew. Buddhism offers a profound lens to understand this dynamic through the concept of anatta, or non-self. The Buddha taught that much of our suffering arises from clinging to a rigid sense of identity, our labels, roles, and beliefs. We define ourselves as this or that, and anything that challenges those definitions feels like a threat. But the truth is, we are not our ideas or roles. These are simply constructs, temporary and ever-changing, like clouds passing through the sky. By recognizing this, we can begin to loosen our attachment to the need to always be right or to have others validate our beliefs. Let's consider a practical example. Imagine you've chosen a minimalist lifestyle, valuing simplicity over material wealth. A family member who prides themselves on financial success may perceive your choice as a rejection of their values. They might make comments like, "Why don't you aim higher?" Or, "Don't you want more for yourself?" These remarks can sting, but it's important to see where they're coming from. Their discomfort likely stems from their attachment to their own beliefs about success and worth. They aren't attacking you. They're grappling with the idea that your path might suggest their own is incomplete. In such moments, the practice of upekkha, or equanimity, becomes invaluable. Equanimity is the ability to remain calm and steady in the face of external pressures. It doesn't mean ignoring the conflict or suppressing your feelings. It means engaging from a place of balance, without being swept away by defensiveness or frustration. When you remain rooted in your truth, you can respond with understanding rather than reaction. For example, you might say, "I appreciate your perspective, but this lifestyle brings me peace and fulfillment." This kind of response acknowledges their viewpoint without diminishing your own. Another layer to this issue is the tendency to see the world in binary terms, right versus wrong, us versus them. This dualistic thinking creates barriers and fosters division. But Buddhism teaches that the world is not black and white. It is nuanced and interconnected. When we encounter someone whose beliefs differ from ours, instead of labeling them as other, we can strive to understand their experiences and what shaped their perspective. This doesn't mean you have to agree with them, but it does mean recognizing that their beliefs are as valid to them as yours are to you. Consider a story about two neighbors, one deeply religious and the other an atheist. Initially, their interactions were cordial, but over time, subtle disagreements about values created distance. The religious neighbor felt the atheist was missing something essential in life, while the atheist saw the religious neighbor as overly rigid. It wasn't until they faced a shared challenge, a storm that damaged both their homes, that they began to truly communicate. In working together to rebuild, they discovered common ground, a shared love for their families, and a mutual desire for a peaceful community. This story illustrates that beneath our surface differences, we often share the same fundamental human values. One way to navigate these differences is by practicing mettā, or loving kindness. This involves cultivating goodwill toward others, even those whose beliefs starkly contrast with our own. Loving kindness doesn't require agreement. It requires an open heart. When you approach someone with genuine kindness, it becomes harder for resentment to take root. For example, if a colleague criticizes your work ethic because it doesn't align with theirs, instead of arguing, you might say, "I respect your dedication. Let's find a way to collaborate effectively." This response not only diffuses tension, but also invites connection. Social media has amplified the visibility of our differences, often turning them into battlegrounds for validation. People feel the need to defend their beliefs publicly, and disagreements quickly escalate into hostility. The Buddhist principle of right speech can guide us here. Before engaging in a debate, ask yourself, is what I'm about to say true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? If the answer is no, consider whether silence might be more powerful. Not every difference needs to be a point of contention. Sometimes, it's enough to simply coexist. There's also a personal freedom that comes from accepting that not everyone will understand or agree with you, and that's okay. The Buddha taught that our happiness cannot depend on external validation. When you live authentically, aligned with your values, you may encounter resistance, but you also cultivate an inner peace that no one can take away. Think of it like a tree rooted deeply in the ground. The wind may blow, but the tree remains steadfast. At the same time, this principle applies both ways. Just as you hope others will respect your beliefs, it's important to extend that same respect to them, even if their values seem completely foreign to you. Remember that their journey is their own. By holding space for their perspective, you create an environment of mutual respect, even amidst disagreement. Ultimately, differences in values and beliefs are not obstacles, they are opportunities. They challenge us to grow, to examine our own assumptions, and to practice compassion. The next time you feel tension arising from such differences, pause and reflect. What can this teach me about myself? How can I respond in a way that honors both my truth and theirs? In doing so, you transform conflict into connection, enriching both your life and theirs. 4. Gossip and rumors. Gossip is a silent yet destructive force, slipping through conversations like a shadow, unseen yet potent. It has the uncanny ability to shape how people perceive you, turning mere speculation into facts in the minds of others. Often, gossip is born not out of malicious intent, but from insecurity, envy, or a simple lack of awareness about the impact words can carry. A single careless whisper, repeated and embellished, can grow into a narrative that feels far removed from the truth. The damage it causes to relationships, reputations, and trust is undeniable. In Buddhism, the practice of musavada, or refraining from false speech, holds a place of great importance. The Buddha emphasized that speech is one of the most powerful tools we have, capable of either building harmony or sowing discord. Idle talk and rumors fall under the category of speech that is neither truthful nor necessary, making them inherently harmful. The Eightfold Path encourages us to use speech wisely, ensuring that what we say is truthful, beneficial, and kind. Gossip fails all three tests, making it a practice that erodes not just the target of the rumors, but also the person spreading them. Imagine someone hears a rumor about you, perhaps that you're arrogant or deceitful, and they share it with others without verifying its truth. This rumor spreads, mutates, and takes on a life of its own, influencing how people perceive and interact with you. You may notice subtle changes in their behavior, averted gazes, shorter conversations, or a coldness that wasn't there before. It's easy to feel frustrated or even betrayed when confronted with such situations. But in these moments, the teachings of the Buddha remind us to pause and ask, what is within my control and what is not? There is a story from Buddhist tradition that beautifully illustrates the power of integrity in the face of gossip. A monk, falsely accused of theft by a jealous peer, found himself ostracized by his community. Whispers of his supposed dishonesty spread quickly, and many began to doubt him. However, the monk did not attempt to confront every person who spoke ill of him or defend himself loudly. Instead, he continued his practice with calm and dignity, letting his actions reflect his true character. Over time, the truth surfaced. The peer who had fabricated the rumor confessed, and the monk's steadfastness in the face of false accusations earned him even greater respect than he had before. This story highlights a critical lesson. Your actions hold more power than any words spoken about you. Gossip thrives on drama and reaction. When you react aggressively to rumors, you may inadvertently validate them, adding fuel to the fire. Instead, by choosing to live authentically and letting your integrity shine through, you rob gossip of its power. Truth, like water, finds its way to the surface, even if it takes time. However, this is not to say that navigating gossip is easy. The sting of knowing people may misunderstand or misjudge you can be deeply painful. It can shake your sense of belonging and trust in others. In these moments, turning inward can provide solace. Buddhism teaches that your peace of mind should not depend on the opinions of others. The more you anchor yourself in your own truth, the less power gossip will have to unsettle you. A practical way to handle gossip is to refrain from retaliating in kind. It can be tempting to start counter-rumors or expose the flaws of those spreading falsehoods, but doing so only entangles you further in negativity. Instead, practice care or compassion. Consider that those who gossip may be acting out of their own insecurities or pain. This doesn't excuse their behavior, but it helps you approach the situation with a calmer and more constructive mindset. Take, for instance, a workplace scenario. Perhaps a colleague spreads a rumor that you take credit for others' work. You could confront them angrily, but this might escalate tensions and make you appear defensive. Alternatively, you could address the issue with both clarity and kindness, saying something like, "I heard there's some confusion about the work we've done. Let's sit down and clarify so we're all on the same page." This approach not only defuses the situation, but also demonstrates your willingness to rise above pettiness. Another way to counteract gossip is by reinforcing positive relationships. When people know you well, they are less likely to believe false narratives about you. Cultivate connections based on trust, respect, and openness. If a rumor arises, those who truly know you will dismiss it without a second thought. This network of trust becomes your shield against the corrosive effects of gossip. Social media has amplified the reach and speed of gossip, making it even more challenging to manage. A single post or comment can go viral, spreading misinformation far beyond your immediate circle. In these cases, practicing upekkha, or equanimity, becomes vital. While it's important to address misinformation in a calm and factual manner when necessary, it's equally important to recognize when to let go. Not every rumor requires a response. Sometimes, silence can speak louder than words, showing that you refuse to be drawn into unnecessary drama. Reflecting on gossip also provides an opportunity for self-awareness. Ask yourself, have I ever engaged in idle talk or spread unverified information? If so, how did it affect others? Acknowledging our own role in perpetuating gossip can deepen our commitment to mindful speech. When you choose to avoid gossip, you not only protect others, but also cultivate a sense of integrity and peace within yourself. Ultimately, gossip is a test of character, for both the one spreading it and the one targeted by it. By responding with integrity, mindfulness, and compassion, you can rise above its corrosive effects. The next time you find yourself in the shadow of rumors, remember that your truth is like a steady flame. While gossip may swirl like wind, trying to extinguish it, your light remains unwavering. Let your actions speak for you, and in time, they will drown out any falsehoods whispered behind your back. 5. Personal insecurities and projection. Sometimes, the negativity directed toward you has nothing to do with who you are or what you've done. It's not your words, your actions, or even your presence that cause discomfort. It's what you represent to the other person. You might unknowingly embody qualities they long for but feel they lack. Or perhaps you reflect fears or insecurities they have not yet confronted within themselves. This phenomenon, known as projection, allows individuals to displace their internal struggles onto an external target. Projection is a deeply human response, often arising when someone is unable or unwilling to face their own vulnerabilities. In Buddhism, this dynamic is rooted in avidya, or ignorance. Ignorance here is not a lack of knowledge, but a lack of awareness about the true nature of one's thoughts and emotions. When people cannot sit with their pain, they unconsciously turn outward, blaming others for feelings that originate within themselves. This process not only shields them from self-examination, but also reinforces their false perception that the source of their suffering lies outside of them. Consider the example of a workplace. Imagine you're confident and self-assured, traits that others might admire. But for a colleague struggling with self-doubt, your confidence may act as a mirror, reflecting their insecurities back at them. They may begin to resent you, believing that your confidence diminishes their own worth. Of course, this isn't the case, but their projection transforms their internal conflict into external hostility. What they truly resent is not you, but the gap between who they are and who they wish to be. When faced with such resentment, it's natural to feel hurt, confused, or even angry. Why should someone dislike you for qualities you've worked hard to cultivate? But Buddhism offers an alternative perspective. Respond with compassion. The Buddha taught that all unwholesome actions and emotions stem from suffering. If someone projects their insecurities onto you, it's because they are grappling with their own pain. Viewing their negativity through this lens allows you to respond not with defensiveness, but with understanding. Compassion doesn't mean excusing harmful behavior. It means recognizing that their actions are not a reflection of your shortcomings, but of their struggles. For instance, if a friend accuses you of being too perfect, it's not an invitation to dull your shine or shrink yourself. Instead, it's a reminder to approach the situation with patience and empathy. You might say, "I hear what you're saying, and I understand that my choices might seem different from yours. I value our friendship and want to make sure we're supporting each other." This approach not only protects your peace, but also creates space for healing. By refusing to mirror their hostility, you break the cycle of projection, offering them an opportunity to reflect on their feelings. While it's not your responsibility to fix their struggles, your compassion can act as a gentle nudge towards self-awareness. Projection often thrives in silence and avoidance. People who project their insecurities onto others are rarely aware of it, and they may never address the root cause unless it's gently brought to light. This is where mindful communication becomes essential. Instead of retaliating or withdrawing, consider initiating a calm and open conversation. Questions like, "Is there something that's been bothering you lately?" Or, "How can we better support each other?" can encourage dialogue and foster mutual understanding. Social comparison is another common breeding ground for projection. In today's hyper-connected world, where achievements, appearances, and lifestyles are displayed on social media, it's easy for people to feel inadequate. If someone projects envy or resentment onto you, it might be because your success reminds them of what they believe they're lacking. They might think, "If they're doing so well, what does that say about me?" These thoughts, rooted in comparison, can snowball into hostility. The antidote to this lies in recognizing the interconnectedness of all beings. A central teaching in Buddhism, the Buddha emphasized that each person's path is unique, shaped by their karma, choices, and circumstances. Your success does not diminish theirs, nor does their struggle detract from your growth. By embodying this understanding, you can approach others with humility and kindness, even when they struggle to offer you the same. Another way to navigate projection is by maintaining strong personal boundaries. While compassion is crucial, it's equally important to protect your energy and not take on the burden of someone else's insecurities. Boundaries help you differentiate between what is yours to carry and what belongs to the other person. For instance, if a family member frequently criticizes your achievements, you might calmly say, "I understand you feel strongly about this, but I need us to focus on supporting each other instead of comparing." Projection can also manifest in more subtle ways, like passive-aggressive comments or dismissive behavior. These actions, while hurtful, often mask deeper fears. For example, a friend who jokes about you being a workaholic might actually be struggling with their own feelings of inadequacy in their career. Instead of reacting defensively, try to see the underlying emotion. You could respond with curiosity, saying, "I noticed you've mentioned my work a few times. How's everything going with your own projects?" Ultimately, the practice of mindfulness is your greatest tool in navigating projection. Mindfulness helps you recognize when someone's negativity is a reflection of their inner world rather than a commentary on your worth. It allows you to respond intentionally, choosing actions that align with your values rather than reacting out of emotion. Mindfulness also creates space for self-reflection. If you find yourself affected by someone's projection, take a moment to ask, "Why am I feeling this way? What is this situation teaching me about myself?" Buddhism reminds us that projection is not a one-way street. Just as others may project their insecurities onto you, you may unconsciously do the same to them. Practicing self-awareness helps you catch these moments and redirect your focus inward. Instead of blaming others for your discomfort, ask yourself, "What am I avoiding within myself?" This simple shift can transform your relationships and deepen your understanding of your own mind. When someone projects their insecurities onto you, it's a call to compassion, both for them and for yourself. Their feelings are a window into their suffering, and your response can either escalate or diffuse the situation. By choosing mindfulness, compassion, and healthy boundaries, you protect your peace while offering them an opportunity to grow. Remember, their pain is not yours to carry, but your kindness can act as a light guiding them toward healing. In the end, the way you navigate projection speaks volumes about your own growth, resilience, and commitment to living authentically. 6. Lack of empathy. Empathy is the invisible thread that binds relationships together, allowing us to understand and connect with one another despite our differences. Without it, misunderstandings arise, walls are built, and resentment takes root. When someone cannot step into your shoes and see the world from your perspective, they may misinterpret your actions, assuming malice or indifference where there is none. This gap in understanding often leads to conflict, not because of what has been said or done, but because of what has been misunderstood. In Buddhism, Kara, or compassion, forms the foundation for cultivating empathy. Compassion goes beyond simply feeling sorry for someone. It is the active desire to ease their suffering and understand their experience. Practicing empathy through the lens of Kara requires stepping outside your own narrative and and making space for the stories and emotions of others. This practice doesn't mean you have to agree with their perspective, but it does mean valuing their feelings and seeking to understand their point of view. Imagine a situation where a close friend begins to drift away, seemingly without explanation. They stop responding to your messages, decline invitations, and grow increasingly distant. You might feel hurt, even angry, wondering what you've done wrong. But what if their withdrawal isn't about you at all? Perhaps they misinterpreted your recent busyness as indifference or felt too overwhelmed by their own struggles to reach out. Without empathy, it's easy to assume the worst, to take their behavior personally and react defensively. However, empathy allows you to pause and ask, what might they be going through that I'm not seeing? Approaching the situation with patience and an open heart can transform the dynamic entirely. Instead of confronting your friend with accusations or demands, you might say, I've noticed we haven't talked as much lately. I just want to check in and see how you're doing. This small act of reaching out, free of judgment, can open the door to understanding and healing. It shifts the focus from blame to connection, reminding your friend that they are seen and valued. The absence of empathy doesn't always manifest as overt conflict. Sometimes, it's the quiet erosion of understanding that creates distance between people. Think about a colleague who consistently misses deadlines or seems disengaged at work. Without empathy, you might label them as lazy or unmotivated. But what if they're struggling with challenges you can't see, like caring for a sick family member or dealing with mental health issues? When we fail to consider these possibilities, we reduce people to one-dimensional caricatures, defined solely by their actions without context. Empathy requires us to look deeper, to ask questions instead of making assumptions. This doesn't mean excusing poor behavior or ignoring accountability, but it does mean recognizing that everyone carries unseen burdens. As the Buddha taught, all beings experience suffering, and it is our shared responsibility to approach one another with compassion rather than judgment. The absence of empathy often stems from an inward focus. When we're consumed by our own worries, goals, or frustrations, it can be difficult to make space for others' experiences. This self-centeredness isn't necessarily intentional. It's simply a byproduct of being human. However, practicing mindfulness can help us become more aware of these tendencies and shift our focus outward. By taking a moment to pause and observe our thoughts, we can recognize when we're stuck in our own perspective and make a conscious effort to step into someone else's. Social media has complicated our ability to practice empathy. In a world where interactions are often reduced to likes, comments, and brief exchanges, it's easy to forget the depth and complexity of the people behind the screens. Misunderstandings are amplified, and disagreements can quickly escalate into hostility when empathy is absent. A thoughtless comment or an overlooked message can feel like a personal attack, even when no harm was intended. Practicing empathy in these digital spaces requires intentionality. Before reacting to a post or message, take a moment to consider the other person's context. What might they be experiencing that led them to express themselves this way? What assumptions are you making about their intentions? This pause can prevent unnecessary conflict and create opportunities for genuine connection. Even in virtual interactions, empathy also involves acknowledging the limitations of our understanding. No matter how much we try to step into someone else's shoes, we can never fully know their experience. This is where humility plays a crucial role. Recognizing that our perspective is incomplete allows us to approach others with curiosity and a willingness to listen. Instead of saying, I understand exactly how you feel, we might say, I can't imagine what you're going through, but I'm here to listen and support you. This openness fosters trust and deepens relationships. The practice of empathy doesn't just benefit others, it also enriches our own lives. When we approach the world with compassion, we begin to see the beauty in our shared humanity. We notice the small acts of kindness that often go overlooked, and we become more attuned to the interconnectedness of all beings. This perspective not only reduces conflict, but also brings a sense of peace and fulfillment to our own hearts. Empathy is not a skill that comes naturally to everyone, nor is it something that can be perfected overnight. It's a practice, one that requires patience, effort, and a willingness to grow. There will be moments when we fail, when our own frustrations or biases cloud our ability to connect. In these moments, it's important to extend empathy to ourselves as well. Recognize that you are also human, navigating the same challenges as everyone else. By treating yourself with the same compassion you strive to offer others, you create a foundation for authentic and meaningful relationships. When someone lacks empathy toward you, it can be deeply painful. Their inability to understand your perspective may leave you feeling unseen or invalidated. But instead of meeting their lack of empathy with anger or withdrawal, consider it an opportunity to model the behavior you wish to see. By responding with patience and compassion, you not only protect your own peace, but also create the possibility for growth and healing in the relationship. Empathy is the bridge that connects us, but it's also a skill that must be nurtured and practiced. In a world that often feels divided, choosing empathy is a radical act of connection. It reminds us that beneath our differences, we all share the same desire to be seen, heard, and understood. By committing to this practice, you not only transform your relationships, but also contribute to a more compassionate and harmonious world. 7. Competition and rivalry. Competition is a natural part of life. At its best, it can inspire growth, innovation, and determination. Healthy competition pushes us to improve ourselves, to strive for excellence, and to reach heights we might not have considered possible. However, when competition becomes entangled with ego and insecurity, it transforms into rivalry, a destructive force that breeds resentment, jealousy, and conflict. This shift occurs when someone views another's success not as a source of inspiration, but as a threat to their own self-worth. Instead of striving to better themselves, they become consumed by the idea of surpassing or undermining the other person. Rivalry often stems from a mindset of scarcity, the belief that success is a limited resource. This perspective convinces people that if someone else is thriving, there's less room for them to succeed. It frames achievements as a zero-sum game, where one person's gain equates to another's loss. This is where bitterness takes root. Instead of seeing a colleague's promotion or a friend's accomplishment as a celebration of hard work, they perceive it as a reminder of their own perceived inadequacies. In Buddhism, the antidote to this mindset lies in letting go of attachment to outcomes. The Buddha taught that clinging to specific results, whether it's winning a competition, receiving recognition, or achieving a goal, inevitably leads to suffering. This doesn't mean abandoning ambition or effort, but rather cultivating a sense of detachment from the results. Success, when viewed through this lens, is not a trophy to be hoarded but a fluid, shared experience. One person's achievement does not diminish another's potential. Instead, it enriches the collective journey. Imagine a scenario where a coworker competes with you aggressively for a promotion. They might engage in subtle sabotage, spread rumors, or take credit for your ideas. It's tempting to respond in kind, to fight fire with fire, and to prove that you're more deserving. But what does this accomplish? Even if you win, the cost is high: strained relationships, eroded trust, and inner turmoil. The Buddha's teachings encourage a different response. Resist the urge to retaliate and focus instead on your own path. By acknowledging their effort without becoming entangled in their behavior, you rise above the fray and preserve your peace. True fulfillment doesn't come from comparison. It comes from growth. When you measure yourself against others, you're always chasing an ever-moving target, never satisfied and always seeking more. But when you focus on your own progress, you discover a sense of contentment that external validation can't provide. This is not complacency. It's a grounded confidence in your journey, independent of others' achievements or opinions. Competition often reveals more about the person competing than it does about the prize itself. For some, it's a way to validate their worth. For others, it's a means to mask insecurities. If you've ever encountered someone who seems obsessed with outdoing you, consider what might be driving their behavior. Are they struggling with feelings of inadequacy? Do they feel overlooked or undervalued? Recognizing the underlying emotions can help you approach the situation with compassion rather than resentment. There's a powerful lesson in celebrating others' victories as if they were your own. This practice, known as mudita in Buddhism, fosters a mindset of abundance. When you rejoice in someone else's success, you free yourself from the shackles of envy and rivalry. This doesn't mean ignoring your aspirations or diminishing your efforts. It means acknowledging that there is enough success, happiness, and opportunity for everyone. Imagine how transformative it would be if, instead of feeling threatened by a friend's achievement, you celebrated it wholeheartedly. Not only does this strengthen your bond, but it also shifts your focus from scarcity to gratitude. At the same time, it's important to set boundaries in relationships where competition becomes toxic. If someone consistently undermines or belittles you, it's crucial to protect your energy and well-being. This doesn't require confrontation or severing ties, but rather creating emotional distance and focusing on environments that uplift and inspire you. Surrounding yourself with people who genuinely support your growth allows you to thrive without the weight of unnecessary rivalry. Social media has intensified the pressures of competition, turning even casual milestones into public spectacles. Scrolling through highlight reels of vacations, promotions, and celebrations can trigger feelings of inadequacy, making it seem like everyone else is thriving while you're falling behind. But these curated snapshots rarely tell the full story. They don't show the struggles, setbacks, or sacrifices that accompany success. When you find yourself comparing your journey to others, pause and reflect on what truly matters. Your worth is not measured by likes, accolades, or trophies, but by the authenticity and integrity with which you live your life. There's a story in Buddhist tradition about two monks who trained together for years. One monk excelled quickly, earning praise and recognition, while the other struggled to keep pace. At first, the struggling monk felt envious, questioning why his efforts seemed to yield less. But over time, he realized that his friend's success did not diminish his own progress. Instead of competing, he began to celebrate his friend's achievements, using them as motivation to deepen his own practice. In doing so, he discovered that the true measure of success wasn't external but internal, the cultivation of patience, perseverance, and peace. Competition can be a teacher if we approach it mindfully. It shows us where we're clinging to outcomes, where we're seeking validation, and where we're resistant to others' growth. By shifting our perspective, we can transform rivalry into a source of inspiration rather than resentment. The next time you feel the pang of competition, ask yourself, what am I truly seeking? Is it recognition, approval, or a sense of accomplishment? And how can I achieve that in a way that aligns with my values and fosters harmony rather than division? In the end, competition is not about defeating others. It's about discovering the best version of yourself. It's about recognizing that success is not a finite resource but a shared journey. By letting go of the need to compare, embracing the spirit of mudita, and focusing on your own growth, you can rise above the noise of rivalry and create a life rooted in purpose, connection, and joy. 8. Social expectations. When you choose a path that diverges from societal expectations, it can feel both liberating and isolating. Pursuing an unconventional career, deciding against traditional milestones, or simply living in a way that prioritizes your values over social norms often invites judgment. People may question your decisions, offer unsolicited advice, or even resent you for daring to live differently. This reaction is rarely about your choices and more about their discomfort with the unfamiliar. By stepping outside the mold, you inadvertently challenge the framework they've built their lives upon, and that can feel unsettling. Society thrives on shared expectations, blueprints for how life should unfold. Go to school, get a stable job, get married, buy a house, and raise a family. These milestones are often presented as universal goals, but they don't resonate with everyone. When you deviate from this script, people might project their doubts or fears onto you, not because your choices are wrong, but because they challenge the idea that there's only one right way to live. This projection is a defense mechanism, a way for them to reaffirm their choices by questioning yours. Buddhism offers a path to navigate this tension through the principle of Dhamma, or truth. Dhamma encourages us to live authentically, aligning our actions with our inner values, rather than seeking validation from external sources. The Buddha taught that true happiness comes from living in harmony with your own truth, not from conforming to societal standards. This doesn't mean rejecting all norms or traditions, but recognizing that your life is yours to live and that no external metric can define your worth. Imagine someone who chooses an unconventional career, perhaps an artist, a yoga teacher, or a writer, over a stable corporate job. Their family and friends might express concern or even disapproval, questioning their decision to forego financial security. What if it doesn't work out? They might ask. Why would you take such a risk? These questions often come from a place of care, but they can also mask deeper fears. By rejecting the traditional path, this person unintentionally highlights the compromises others may have made to conform. And that reflection can be uncomfortable. When faced with judgment, it's natural to feel defensive or hurt. You might be tempted to explain yourself, to prove that your choices are valid. But the truth is, you don't need to justify your path to anyone. The Buddha taught that clinging to the need for approval only deepens suffering. Instead of seeking validation, focus on cultivating inner confidence and trust in your decisions. When you live authentically, your peace and fulfillment will speak louder than any words. It's also important to remember that those who judge or resent you are often grappling with their own insecurities. Your decision to live differently might force them to confront the limitations they've placed on themselves. For instance, someone who stayed in a job they dislike for the sake of stability might feel threatened by your willingness to take a risk. Instead of seeing your courage as inspiring, they may view it as a challenge to their choices. This isn't your burden to carry. Their feelings are a reflection of their journey, not a critique of yours. Social expectations are deeply rooted in fear. Fear of the unknown, fear of failure, and fear of judgment. By choosing a path less traveled, you become a living reminder that it's possible to step beyond these fears. This can be both a gift and a challenge, as it may inspire some and alienate others. The key is to remain grounded in your own truth, recognizing that your path is not about pleasing others, but about living a life that feels authentic and fulfilling to you. A practical way to handle this is to let go of the need to conform. This doesn't mean dismissing others' opinions entirely, but understanding that their perspectives are shaped by their own experiences, not yours. When someone questions your choices, approach the conversation with empathy rather than defensiveness. For example, if a friend says, "I don't understand why you'd give up such a stable job," you might respond, "I appreciate your concern. For me, this decision aligns with what I value most right now." This response acknowledges their feelings without compromising your truth. It's also helpful to surround yourself with people who support your journey. Finding a community of like-minded individuals who value authenticity over conformity can provide the encouragement and understanding you need to stay true to yourself. These connections remind you that you're not alone in your choices and that there's strength in forging your own path. Social media can amplify the pressures of conformity, with endless streams of posts showcasing traditional milestones, engagements, promotions, house purchases. While these moments are worth celebrating, it's easy to fall into the trap of comparison, wondering if your unconventional path measures up. In these moments, return to the Buddhist teaching of anatta, or non-self, which reminds us that our identity is not defined by societal labels or accomplishments. Your worth is not tied to how closely you align with societal expectations, but to the integrity with which you live your life. There's a quiet power in staying true to yourself, even when it means going against the grain. By choosing authenticity over approval, you inspire others to question their own limitations and consider what truly matters to them. This ripple effect can create a shift, encouraging people to re-examine the norms they've accepted without question. Your courage becomes a beacon, showing that it's possible to live a life aligned with your values, even in the face of judgment. Ultimately, the tension between societal expectations and personal authenticity is an opportunity for growth. It challenges you to define your own values, to trust your intuition, and to cultivate resilience in the face of criticism. The next time you feel the weight of judgment, take a deep breath and remind yourself that your path is yours alone. By honoring your truth, you not only find freedom for yourself, but also plant seeds of possibility for others. In the end, Living authentically is not just a gift to yourself. It's a contribution to a world where everyone feels empowered to do the same. 9. Lack of recognition. Feeling unrecognized is one of the most subtle yet profound sources of resentment in human relationships, whether in the workplace, among friends, or within families. The yearning to be seen and acknowledged is universal. We all want to feel that our efforts, contributions, and presence matter. When this recognition is absent, it can create a quiet ache that grows into bitterness. The unspoken thought, "Do they even notice what I'm doing?" can linger, causing small moments of neglect to snowball into larger emotional wounds. In Buddhism, the practice of mettā, or loving kindness, offers a transformative approach to this dynamic. Mettā teaches us to actively cultivate goodwill toward others, not just in grand gestures, but in the everyday moments that define our connections. A kind word, a heartfelt thank you, or a simple acknowledgement can be powerful acts of love. They signal to someone, "I see you. You matter." This practice reminds us that recognition is not just about fulfilling someone's desire for validation. It's about nurturing the bonds that keep us connected. Think about a workplace scenario where a team member consistently goes above and beyond but rarely receives acknowledgement. Over time, their enthusiasm might wane, replaced by feelings of frustration or apathy. Without recognition, they may begin to feel invisible, as though their contributions are taken for granted. This isn't about seeking praise for every task, but about the human need to feel valued. A simple, genuine comment like, "Your work made a big difference in the success of this project," can reignite their motivation and strengthen their sense of belonging. In personal relationships, the same principle applies. Imagine a parent who tirelessly supports their family, providing meals, maintaining the home, and juggling responsibilities. If their efforts are met with silence or expectation rather than gratitude, they may begin to feel unappreciated. Resentment doesn't arise overnight. It's the result of accumulated moments where their contributions were overlooked. By expressing even small moments of gratitude, "Thank you for always taking care of us," you validate their efforts and reinforce the emotional connection that sustains the relationship. But what happens when you're the one feeling unrecognized? It's easy to let those feelings fester, replaying moments where you were overlooked or undervalued. The mind might whisper, "Why bother if no one notices?" Or, "They only see what others do, not what I contribute." In these moments, the Buddhist teachings offer a path forward. Rather than dwelling on the absence of recognition, shift your focus inward. Ask yourself, "Why do I need external validation to affirm my worth?" This isn't a dismissal of your feelings, but an invitation to explore where your sense of value truly comes from. The Buddha emphasized the importance of understanding the impermanence of external rewards. Praise, like criticism, is fleeting. By grounding your sense of self-worth in your own values and actions, you free yourself from the constant need for acknowledgement. This doesn't mean you stop desiring recognition. It's natural and human, but it helps you navigate moments when it's absent without losing your sense of purpose. At the same time, practicing self-recognition can be incredibly empowering. Celebrate your own efforts, even if others don't. Acknowledge your growth, your resilience, and the impact you've made, no matter how small it may seem. This practice fosters a sense of inner validation that can sustain you through moments of external silence. When you sense that someone around you is feeling unseen, approach the situation with curiosity and compassion. Ask yourself, what might they be going through? Or how can I make them feel valued? A simple question like, "How are you feeling about everything lately?" can open the door to deeper understanding. Often, it's not about offering solutions, but about creating a space where they feel heard. Social media has amplified the need for recognition, with likes, shares, and comments serving as modern-day metrics of validation. While these interactions can feel affirming, they also create an environment where the absence of engagement feels like rejection. Someone might post about a personal achievement, only to receive minimal acknowledgement, leaving them questioning their worth. In these moments, the practice of mettā can extend to the digital realm. Take the time to comment, to celebrate others' successes, and to remind them that their efforts are seen, even in small ways. These gestures may seem insignificant, but they carry immense weight in a world where recognition is often fleeting. In families, lack of recognition can create deep emotional rifts. A sibling who feels overshadowed, a child who feels unheard, or a partner who feels undervalued. All of these dynamics can strain relationships over time. Addressing these feelings requires both mindfulness and intentional action. Notice the small ways your loved ones contribute to your life and express gratitude for them. A heartfelt note, an unexpected compliment, or simply saying, "I appreciate you," can repair and strengthen bonds that might otherwise fray. In navigating the absence of recognition, both giving and receiving play essential roles. When you offer acknowledgement freely, without expectation of anything in return, you create an environment of trust and connection. And when you release the need for constant validation, you find freedom in knowing that your worth is not dependent on external approval. The next time you notice someone's frustration or withdrawal, consider whether they might be feeling unseen. Approach them with empathy, and take a moment to reflect on the ways they contribute to your life or work. By offering recognition, whether through words, actions, or simply being present, you not only uplift them but also strengthen the foundation of your relationship. These small, mindful gestures remind us that recognition is not just a gift we give to others. It's a way to nurture the shared humanity that connects us all. Hatred, whether expressed openly or hidden beneath the surface, often tells a story not about you, but about the struggles, fears, and insecurities of the person harboring it. When we begin to see negativity through this lens, it becomes less about confrontation and more about compassion. By understanding these roots, guided by the wisdom of Buddhist teachings, we equip ourselves with the tools to navigate life's challenges with grace and resilience. Each encounter with negativity is an invitation, not to retaliate or withdraw, but to grow. It's a moment to reflect, to choose understanding over judgment, and to practice compassion, both for others and for ourselves. Recognizing that others' negativity is not a reflection of your worth frees you from the burden of carrying their pain. Instead, you can respond with equanimity, standing firmly in your truth without being swayed by the storms around you. This is the power of inner peace. It transforms chaos into clarity and turns conflict into an opportunity for connection. As you move forward, remember the timeless wisdom of the Buddha. Hatred does not cease by hatred, but only by love. This is the eternal rule. Love, in this context, is not just an emotion but an active choice, a decision to approach life with kindness, patience, and understanding. It's the practice of letting go, of releasing the need to control or fix others, and instead focusing on your own growth and alignment with your values. In the face of negativity, ask yourself, what can I learn from this? How can I respond in a way that reflects the person I aspire to be? These questions guide you away from reaction and toward intention, turning even the most challenging interactions into opportunities for self-discovery and growth. By practicing right mindfulness, you become more attuned to the present moment, less entangled in the past, and more open to the possibilities of the future. Your journey toward peace and understanding is not just for your benefit, it ripples outward, influencing the lives of those around you. When you choose compassion over resentment, you inspire others to do the same. Your actions become a light, a reminder that it's possible to rise above negativity and create a life rooted in love and wisdom. If this video has resonated with you, I encourage you to share your thoughts in the comments below. What lessons have you learned about handling negativity? How have you turned difficult moments into opportunities for growth? Your story could be the spark of inspiration someone else needs to embrace their own journey with courage and grace. Even a simple comment, like the word peace, can serve as a positive affirmation and a signal to others that you're part of a community committed to growth and understanding. Thank you for spending your time with us today. Your presence here, your willingness to reflect and grow, is a testament to your strength and resilience. If you found value in this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you won't miss future content designed to inspire and empower you. Together, we can create a space where kindness, wisdom, and peace thrive. Until next time, take care of your heart, nurture your mind, and continue walking your path with authenticity and love. We'll see you again soon.